All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on yet another episode of the Operation Feed the Nation challenge, which is the urban and backyard farming challenge. So, on this week's edition of the training, which is week 3, we do have a training facilitator from Fontaine Farms Limited. Unfortunately, Mr. Christian Oyeka was unable to join us, but we do have Mr. Peter here with us. Mr. Peter is a seasoned agronomist from Fontaine Farms, and he will be the one teaching us today more about how to grow tomato, pepper, okra in your backyard. And he's going to be teaching us very practically. Guys, I believe that if you see his background, Peter is currently in a greenhouse. And specifically, because before we came on live, I was asking him, well, what particular greenhouse are you in? And he says it is bell pepper. So I believe he's going to also just give us a lot of practical uh, teachings, knowing fully whether he's within a greenhouse farm. So, Mr. Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, man. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic. We're excited to have you on this training today as our facilitator for week 2, teaching us on how to grow tomato, bell peppers, and okra. So I think we'll just definitely proceed with the training at this time. So do I share the screen for you now?
Yeah, I can share it, man. You can share it.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. So let's do that. All right.
So, okay. Can I start, man? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Peter, you can start out. Yes.
Can I start? Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. So, my name is Oyedotun Peter Oluwatofumi. I'm representing the managing director of Fuente Farm United in person of Mr. Christian Oeka. So, I'm here to actually take us through fruits, vegetables production, how to plant fruit, vegetables. So, what do we understand by fruit vegetables? Fruit vegetables are crops whose edible plants are botanically fruit, in the sense that they actually they actually a fruit. They're actually a fruit, but we actually use them for vegetables. So they develop from flowers and contain seeds, and they are crucial parts of healthy diets, providing essential nutrients, fiber, and flavor to various meals. So, with examples of fruits, vegetables, we actually have tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, okra. So, which are the examples we're actually talking about in these natures? So, tomatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes are one of the most widely consumed fruit vegetables. They are actually rich in vitamin C and lycopene, which is lycopene is actually an antioxidant agent. So peppers, we have bell peppers, we have habanero, we have chili peppers and other peppers, other varieties, other species of peppers, and they are actually packed with vitamins and also antioxidants. We have cucumbers too, which are low in calories and high in water content. Cucumbers are actually refreshing and hydrating. Each growth, like we have different growths for all these fruit vegetables. The growth stages are generally the same for all fruit vegetables. So we have, starting from generation, we have the germination. The first stage is actually the germination stage. So at this stage, the seed spots and produce their first leaves. So this is the typical pictures of illustrating the process whereby seed are germinate. So to the first from the seed to the first root. Can you go back to the slide where we have the pictures? Yeah. So we have the seed. If you are checking the images for the germination, we have the seed, which from the seed which have the first root. So the root actually develops gradually. So the second stage for the growth stage of fruit vegetables is actually seedling. The next slide, ma. So this is the second stage of fruit vegetables. So at this stage, the young plants develop their root system and start producing leaves after 2 to 3 weeks. The seedling are then transferred to larger container for people who actually practice, maybe people that actually want to plant at their backyard, and directly into the field for people planting for large scale. So these are the pictures showing the seedling stage. The next slide. So the third stage is the vegetative stage. So at this stage, the plant focus on leaf growth and development. This is the stage that the plant actually focus its energy to actually produce more flower, more leaves, and and strong stem. So the fourth stage is the flowering stage. So at this stage, the plant produce flowers, which will eventually develop into fruit. So the last stage is the fruit formation and maturation. Flowers are pollinated at this stage. So we all know the meaning of pollination. Like the pollination is actually when the eggs actually transfer from the anther to the stigma. So after that, the fruit begins to grow. So after the formation, the fruit ripens and become ready for harvest. These are the pictures that show the vegetative stage and fruiting stage. The first image actually show the vegetative stage, whereby the plant actually grows more fruit and stronger stem. So the second picture actually show the plants that actually that have flower fruits already. So the next stage, the next slide, ma. So the life cycle for each fruit vegetables. So these are the previous slide, ma. Okay, let's start from the tomato. So this is the overall life cycle of tomato. So the life cycle of tomato actually ranges from 90 to 120 days, depending on the varieties and species. So the for the tomato, the germination actually took take between 5 and 10 days for them to germinate. So after that, the seedling stage actually do take between 2 to 3 weeks for the seedling stage. So for the vegetative stage, it actually ranges from 3 weeks to 4 weeks. This is the stage where the plant actually grows more flowers, grows more leaves and stronger stem. So at the flowering stage starts around 6 to 7. After the vegetative stage, the flowering stage actually starts from 6 weeks to 7 weeks. So for the fruiting stage, it actually take place between 60 days. That's after immediately after flowering stage, after 7 weeks. So it actually start from the 8 weeks and above. So for the bell pepper, the life cycle is ranges between 90 to 150 days, depending on the varieties actually. The germination actually take place between 7 to 14 days, while the seedling stage actually take place between 2 to 3 weeks. Vegetative growth actually take place between 3 after the seedling stage, which is from the 3 weeks uh, to 5 weeks. The flowering stage actually ranges from 60 days to 70 days after planting. So for the fruiting stage, actually take place between 75 days to 90 days after planting. So let's go to the next slide, ma. So let okay, for the cucumber, the life cycle is actually between 90 days to 120 days. The germination is actually between 5 to 10 days. The seasoning stage is actually between 2 to 3 weeks. The vegetative stage is actually between 3 to 4 weeks, while the flowering stage is actually starts from around week 6 to week 7. So the fruiting stage is actually between 60 and 80 days after transplanting. So for the okra, their life cycle is actually between 60 to 90 days, germination between 5 to 7 days, seedling stage is actually 2 weeks, vegetative growth is actually between after the seedling stage with from week 3 to week 4, flowering from 30 days to 40 days, fruiting from 45 to 50 days. The next slide. Next slide, ma. So as human being actually takes in food for our growth and development, plants also take in nutrient elements for their optimal growth and development. So this the nutrient which plant actually takes in actually includes nitrogen. We have phosphorus, we have potassium, we have calcium, we have magnesium. These are the major elements in which in which a plant actually uptake. So for the nitrogen actually promotes leaf growth and development. So for the phosphorus it supports root development, flower and fruit fruit formation. Phosphorus is actually the nutrient element that actually support the root development, that actually make the root to actually form network so that it can actually take other nutrient elements. So is actually responsible for flower and fruit formation too. So the next nutrient element we have here is actually potassium. It helps with overall plant health, resistance to disease and fruit quality, in the sense that it actually increase the fruit size. If you want your plant to have fruit, a bigger fruit, it will actually require potassium for it to make it for it to increase the size of the fruit. So we have calcium too. Calcium is the one is actually essential for the cell wall development and also fruit quality. For magnesium, it's involved photosynthesis and fruit development. Next, next slide. So at each stage, plant actually there are some nutrient elements that is actually require at each stage. So at seedling stage, nitrogen is actually more required by plants at this seedling stage. So and also phosphorus is actually required by plants at seedling stage for root development. Also calcium for stronger stem and firm tissue. So there are sources that you can actually get nitrogen from. You have poultry manure. So poultry manure is actually organic fertilizer. So and also poultry manure contain all the essential nutrients required by plant. So we have inorganic and artificial fertilizer, which is where we actually gotten nitrogen from. You have NPK fertilizer and it's actually in grade. We have NPK 2020, you have NPK 1515, you have NPK 101010. So for vegetative stage, nitrogen is also required for vegetative growth because this is the stage where plant actually needed to actually grow more of leaves and stronger stem. So the sources is actually the where you can actually get nitrogen from. You can actually get it from poultry manure and also any NPK. For flowering stage, phosphorus is actually needed for roots and flower formation. So you can actually get phosphorus from bone meal and also NPK. We have other fertilizer for where you can actually get phosphorus from. We have diammonium phosphate. We have monoammonium phosphate where you can actually get phosphorus from. For fruiting stage, potassium, calcium is actually needed because it's the potassium that will actually make the fruit to grow bigger, and also calcium to prevent end rot So where you can actually get potassium from, you can actually get it from wood ash, banana peel, and also compost, animal compost. The next slide. So okay, the pest disease and disease control in fruit vegetables. As human being, we actually have disease that actually attack human being our sickness. So plants also have their pests and diseases that actually do attack them. So and the where we are talking about pest and disease, for the region we are, the tropical region we have because the temperature is actually so all these pests actually exist where the temperature is actually high. So we have so let's talk about the control, how to control these pests and disease in fruit vegetable production. So pest and disease control involves all the practice used to prevent and reduce and manage damage caused by harmful insects, microorganisms, pathogen that affect plant growth, yield and quality. You can actually prevent, you can actually eradicate the pest because the region we are, but we can actually prevent the all these pests and disease. You can actually reduce or manage them, but we can't actually eradicate them totally. So for effective management, ensure healthy plant and sustainable production, especially in small urban farming. So we have common pests rather for tomato and pepper. So for tomato and pepper, we have this common pests that actually do attack them. We have aphids, we have white flies, we have fruit borer, we have thrips. So this is the symptoms that actually show when the plant are being attacked by this pest. So these symptoms are leaf corning, we have bronzed leaf for thrips, we have fruit holes for fruit borers. They actually pinch into the fruit and sucking them. So we have flower drops, we have stunted growth. When the insect actually, like for example for thrips, when it has already sucked the sap because they are actually a sucking insect. So they suck through the flowers, they suck through the tender leaf, the succulent leaf. So they suck the sap. So once they are already sucking the sap, it's called stunted growth in plants. So for okra, we have hoppers, we have beetles, we have fruit borers. So the symptoms that actually show once they are already attacked by this pest is yellowing of plants, holes in leaves and pods. So for cucumber, we have aphids, we have spider mites, we have cucumber beetles. So their symptoms are leaf destruction, yellow speckles and reduced vigor. The next slide. So these are the images that actually show the trips. This the first image actually show the plant that have already been attacked by trips. So the leaf actually look look uh like in form of dry leaves, like the chips are already sucking the sap, so they look sinks. So the second image actually show the chips. These are the strip. This they are actually a tiny insect inside the flower. They're actually sucking the flower saps. So these are the third image actually show the aphids that's being infested with garbage leaves. So the next we have, apart from pest, we have disease too. So there are we have major disease that actually do attack plants. So we have many diseases. We have virus, we have bacteria, we have fungi, we have nematode that usually do attack these plants. But because of our time, we actually focus on the disease that actually do affect these plants. So we have fungi. I think it is actually fungi that actually do affect most of these our fruits, vegetables. So for fruit, tomato and pepper, we have early and late blight. We have prutitis, which is not on the slide. They are actually all fungi. So their symptoms is brown for early and late blight. The symptom is actually brown spots on leaf and fruit. So to control this measure, for the control measure for disease, for early and late blight is remove infested leaf, use resistant varieties, apply organic fungicide. So we have fungicide that you can actually use to control this fungi. For example, we have copper based fungicide like red force. They're actually a stronger fungi that can actually control this fungi. So for cucumber and okra, we have battery mildew. So for the symptoms, we have white powdery growth on leaf. It actually show like a white powder on the leaves. So for the control measure, avoid overcrowding, apply neem extract or um um sulphur based chemical for the control. And also we have root rot. So root rot is also a fungi. So it cause for the symptoms, it cause withering and blackened root. And the control measures is improve drainage and avoid waterlog, because they're actually susceptible when the growing medium is actually waterlogged. Like it's actually there's too much of moisture in the growing medium, is either substrate or soil. Once the soil is actually too waterlogged, like there's much moisture in the soil, there's higher tendency that the plant are actually being attacked with root rot. The next slide. So we have the methods we can use pest to control pest and disease. So we have the cultural control. So the cultural control, this involve the crop protection, like avoid planting the same crop repeatedly on the same spot. Like growing, maybe this growing season, maybe you plant tomato. So the next growing season you can actually change it from tomato to cucumber or to okra. So the second one is proper spacing, improve air circulation and reduce disease spread. The third point is sanitation, like remove weeds, infected plants and plant debris. And the fourth point is early planting, helps control es- help crops establish from before pest population build up. So the second control is physical and mechanical control. So at the picking, so by the first point for physical control and mechanical control is at picking. At picking actually involves removing the visible pest or egg masses manually. So the second point, we have sticky traps. So sticky traps actually is actually in various color. We have the yellow sticky traps and blue sticky traps. It actually helps to trap the all these insect pests. So for the yellow sticky traps, is actually the yellow sticky traps actually traps all the pests because they are actually attracted to yellow color. For blue for blue sticky trap actually attract trips because where all these trips are actually attracted to blue color. So we use blue sticky trap to actually traps trips. The last point on physical and mechanical control is mulching. It reduces weed growth and prevents soil-borne disease splash. So the third point for the method of controlling pests and disease is biological control. So for biological control, we have natural enemy a like a prey that actually prey on this pest. So introducing and encouraging natural enemies like lady bird beetles. They eat these lady bird beetles. They feed on aphids, spiders, and lacewings. They actually control white flies and thrips. The meaning of these natural enemies, like, let me put it into an example, like using cats to control rats at home. So you can actually use all these pest natural enemies to actually control them. So and I think this biological control is actually can actually be practiced in the open field. I mean in the greenhouse because it's actually an enclosed area. So you can't actually introduce biological control in the open field. They can't really control them, but it can be practiced in the they can be practiced in the greenhouse like this. So avoid 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 excessive chemical spray that kills beneficial insects. This is actually applicable to open field cultivation because there are also other insects that are actually beneficial to crops, to pests, to plants rather. We have butterfly which aid in pollination. We have honeybee. They actually aid in pollination too. So we have to use and we have to avoid the like using of this chemical in the open field. So we won't harm the beneficial insects too. The next slide. So we have organic control. Organic control are natural control of natural, let me say not natural uh, natural ways of controlling pest and disease. We have neem extract, which is actually gotten from neem plant. So they have a they act as natural insect dependent and antifungal. So we have soap solution, like liquid soap can actually use in controlling pest and disease too. So we have garlic and pepper spray. They actually repels all these training insects, all these sucking insects. They have the agent that actually they have the properties that actually repels all these training and sucking insects. Here in my farm we have Eco Fuente. It's an actually an organic chemical we actually made there for controlling our pest. So we have like we have the Eco Fuente actually contains rabbit urine and other composition we use for the like we use here to control pest and disease here. So the last result is actually the chemical control. So use approved pesticide only when invested in is severe. So you can actually when the if investigation is actually severe, is actually moving towards the destruction threshold. You actually apply chemical control. You actually apply all these pesticide and insecticide. So there are various examples of insecticide and pesticide. We have punch, we have bet expert, we have, there are actually much, there are actually many. So for the chemical control, follow recommended dosage. It's actually written on all those chemical, the dosage you can actually use to control the pest. So the pre-harvest interval and the protective measure. So and also rotate the chemicals to prevent pest resistance. So for, because all these plants, once you are using the chemical, the one chemical every time for the control, they will actually develop resistance. They will actually develop resistance for the they will actually develop resistance against the chemical, because we're actually using it every day. For it not to for pests not to develop resistance against all these chemicals, you have to be rotating the chemicals. Like maybe you use sponge this week, you can use another chemical next week for the control. The next night. So simple irrigation and techniques for urban farming. For people that want to engage in backyard farming, or maybe probably large scale farming, there is actually a way you can actually maintain the moisture content of your plant. So irrigation is the process of supplying water to crops to support their growth, especially when rainfall is insufficient or irregular. So because it's the water that actually make plants to actually survive. If there's no water, your plants won't survive. So for urban farmers, space and resources are often limited. So simple and low cost irrigation techniques are used to ensure crops receive enough water efficiently without waste. So there's a many ways we can actually apply water to our plants. Like we can actually apply water to our plant. So the first way is manual watering. So manual watering is for people that want to engage in backyard farming. So manual watering, you can actually go for manual watering. But for people that want to engage in large scale farming, manual watering is actually not encourageable. Encourage it's not actually encouraging to actually do, because it will actually take more time. It will actually take more time. So for people that want to engage in backyard farming, you can actually use this method for your watering. So it's actually the most basic and affordable method. So it actually involves using of watering cans, bucket or small hose to deliver water directly to plant roots. So and uh, the best time for watering our plant is actually early in the morning and late in the evening to reduce evaporation, because once it's actually in the afternoon, in the noon, the temperature will actually increase and the soil will have already become hot. It's not advisable to actually apply water, because it can actually damage the plant. So the best time to actually supply water to plant is actually early in the morning, because the temperature will actually cool, and late in the evening also, when the temperature has actually comes down. So is the manual watering is actually, as I said earlier, is actually suitable for small gardens, and maybe small gardens, or all these backyard farming, growing bags and urban cone farmings. So the next slide. So this is the example of water and how to supply the water to plant. This is a typical picture illustrating a manual watering with a watering can. The next, okay, we also have bottle drip irrigation. So to reduce the stress of carrying water can every time to supply water to your plant, you can actually go with this method, bottle drip irrigation, whereby you can use water bottle to actually supply water to your plant. Like it's actually a low cost way of actually supplying water to plants using your plastic bottle. And it can be done like by punching the cover of the bottle with with a needle, so that the water can be dropping, small small. So puncture small hole in the cap or side of a plastic bottle and fill with water and place it near the plant root zone. So the water drips slowly and providing steady moisture to the soil. So by this way, you actually reduce the stress of carrying watering can, supplying water to your plant. So by the what you just need to be filling up the bottles so that the water will actually be supplying to the plant drip by drip. So this picture actually show way that the water bottle can actually be used for bottle deep irrigation. The next slide. So we have gravity deep or hose drip irrigation. So this is the method we actually use in the greenhouse and also in the open field for large scale farming. But it can actually be used for small scale farming too if you have the capacity, if you have the financial resources for it. So these are the example of this picture actually show where the I think this the middle image actually show where you can actually use the deep tape for to actually grow your plant at at home or at your garden at home. So so okay. So it's a simple system using drip lines and perforated hose connected to an water to elevated water container. So gravity actually pulls the water through the small hole or emitters, slowly deepening around the water base. So the next slide. Okay. So I want to okay, we are done ma. But I want to show a video that actually explain tomato cultivation in the greenhouse.
Compromise begins with a step. In this video, we will be showing you the amazing journey of our beef tomato plants from the transplanting stage to where they are now. So after successful
So
transplant,
this is the drip tape.
adequate
This is
watering
the
and
black drip
spraying of
tape.
important
We actually
chemicals for
supply the
growth
water. You see the way
were
the water
carried
is
out.
actually leaking out.
Few weeks later, trellising begins. This is a very big part of the job because it requires tying up the plants to create a
So
form
this
of support
once your
system
plant
for them
actually reach
so as to
vegetative
keep them
stage,
off the
you can
ground,
use
promote good air
twine or
circulation,
rope to
and
actually
also
support them
prevent
because their stem
disease issues.
is not that stronger once they carry the fruit.
Next, flower budding begins to appear and develops into full bloom.
So this is the flowering stage whereby tomato actually
Blossom set sprays are
gets flower.
introduced and used to aid pollination since there are no insect pollinators in the greenhouse. This is done right after the first natural blossoms are starting to open. After pollination comes fruit development. Fruits begin to develop in various branches of the plant. The actual moment that we have been waiting for is around
At
the
this stage,
corner,
the
and
tomato
we are
has
so
already
excited awaiting the harvest
bears
time
fruit
of
already.
these beef tomatoes. From transplanting in the greenhouse to this stage, this tomato planting journey has really been an
So in
incredible
the greenhouse, we use
experience.
growing bag. But we have for greenhouse, we have
Get ready for
what we
next
call
harvest.
soilless farming inside the greenhouse. The soilless
Beef
farming is
tomatoes
actually
coming
the
your
room
way
where
soon.
we actually use going back to actually grow peppers, tomato inside the greenhouse. And the growing bag actually contains substrate like they contains sawdust, uh, cocoa peat, and we also have we also have uh, what's it called? I've forgotten. But no, basically, the growing bags actually contains the substance actually contains the sawdust and cocoa peat. So the cocoa peat actually helps the water, like to retain water, because we are not using soil, we're actually using sawdust. So the cocoa peat actually helps the plant to actually retains water. I think yeah, done.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Peter, for that session. It was really, really insightful. Thank
Okay.
you so much for sharing that with us today. I think that we only have, I think we have just like possibly two questions. The other questions that were asked are already things that you sort of addressed whilst you were teaching, so there's no need to ask those questions again. But I'll just
Okay.
ask the question that is here. Um, the person says, how can a small scale farmer tell the right time to harvest a tomato? And what is a simple storage method to keep them staying fresh?
So okay, can you repeat the question, ma?
So the question is, how can a person tell the right time to harvest tomato? And how can they also, store it to keep it fresh? Tomatoes is very perishable, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how can they keep it fresh? But how would you know that is the right time to harvest?
Okay. Like you can start harvesting tomato once it actually turns yellow.
Mm. So you
So
don't
you
you
can
don't
start
have to wait for it to
to turn red.
pass.
Yeah, you can
Mm.
actually start to harvesting when it actually turns yellow. So from there it actually turns red. So and
Mm.
there's another thing. When we are talking about the shelf life, there's this tomato you actually plant here, cobra species. They actually last long without any form of storage. They actually last long. They can actually stay like 10 days to 14 days without any form of storage.
Are you
So
serious?
actually, it actually depends on the species. So if you are actually planting species that is not that, maybe all these local tomato that's not that, they are not that modified for all these things. So you can actually store it inside a fridge where the temperature is actually optimal,
Cool.
where
Mm.
the temperature is actually cool. So you
Mm.
can store your
Wow.
your
Okay. Nice. Nice. Nice.
Well,
I think there's
there's temperature that actually stay long without any form of storage. So that's why we
okay. So
actually plant. That's why we actually plant the species here. It's actually called cobra. It actually has long shelf life. It can stay like 14 days without spoiling.
so what about pepper as well? Are they pepper that can also stay for that long in terms of the shelf life? And if yes, what's the
Yeah, for bell pepper, for habanero too. The
mm,
habanero that we actually plant here, avaja. We plant avaja here.
mhm.
They actually have long shelf life too. But the bell pepper we plant here, they don't have long shelf life. They can easily spoil. But if you want to store it, you can actually use maybe fridge or freezer. So it can actually reduce the temperature. So
Mm, okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Then the final question is, what are like the key factors that beginners should consider? Okay. Are there any specific key factors a person should consider before going into fruity vegetable farming? Are there any key factors?
okay. I think for if you are going for large scale okay, if you are going for large scale farming, there are actually a factor to be considered.
Okay.
I think the major factor to be considered is enough supply of water,
Mm,
because plant actually needs water. They can't deal without water. So you have
mm,
if you actually want to engage in large scale farming, you have to have the right sources of water, like where you can actually get your water from, like stable supply of water.
Mm.
And
Fantastic.
that will actually enable you to actually farm in the drying season.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So that means from
for
what you said, um, hydroponics can also be used in growing fruity vegetables. Is that possible?
yeah, yes. That's what we actually do here. We actually use hydroponics to plant bell peppers, to plant tomatoes, to plant habaneros.
Fantastic, fantastic. So those are all the questions
I think
that we got.
okay, okay.
Okay, you want to say something?
I think the best system for growing fruit vegetables actually inside greenhouse, inside like
Mm,
hydroponics, because it actually increase your production,
the
because you are
yield.
giving them you are increase your yield, because you are actually supplying them with nutrient every day. You're actually supplying them with nutrients. Not in the open field that if you don't have fertilizer, if you don't have, there are some soil that doesn't have nutrients. So
Mm,
unless you actually supply them with fertilizer, they can't do well.
mm. Okay, that's good. So that means from what you're saying, if a person wants to do open field, maybe they have to do like a soil test to check the fertility of the whole of the
Yeah.
soil.
And most farmers doesn't do soil test because it's actually more expensive to do.
Mm, mm,
So for most farmer doesn't. It's actually the right way to actually go about once you want to start farming. Like do the soil test, check if there's sufficient nutrients.
mm.
So, but
And so
the
if from your own experience, what would you say is the best in terms of supplying of nutrients? Would it be organic or inorganic supply of nutrients? Would it be like fertilizer or manure? Which would you say is sort of the best from your experience?
okay, I think organic is actually the best way to actually go about farming actually, because
Okay.
sometimes all these chemicals, they are not healthy to be consuming. So I think
Mm,
we actually do practice, like we use poultry manure to farm
okay.
our stuff in the open field, because we have open field cultivation
Oh,
manure
okay. Okay.
to
Okay.
actually. And I think the poultry manure is not that expensive, because all these chemicals we are seeing is actually more expensive. So the
Mm,
poultry using poultry manure is actually will reduce the cost of production.
mm.
So
Fantastic.
and
Fantastic.
also we also have a organic pesticide here we are using. We actually made it. We call it Econfuente. It's actually made from urine and other composition. So we actually use
Mm,
that. So we use the rate we are using the chemicals, because all these chemicals, they are not ready to be. But
mm,
the reason why we actually, but there's no way to actually solve all these problems, because we are in tropical region, especially in Nigeria, and Ghana, and other West African country. So we are actually have, because of the temperature, there's no way to actually control this pest. Like they are actually on here on norms, like, so you can't control the, compared to other maybe humid region where their temperature is actually cooler, because all these pests, they can't survive when the temperature is actually cool. They actually they actually increases when the temperature is actually high. Their reproduction
mm,
is actually high when the temperature is actually high. So they keep producing when the temperature is
mm,
actually, so there's no, you can actually reduce them here at the tropical region.
mm. So from what you're
So I
saying
think
is,
the best way to actually go about farming is actually using organic methods. But it's not that easy actually to actually use organic to farm.
mm. So from what you're saying is the best practice is organic. However, it's a bit challenging
Yeah,
because maybe you might not be able to produce at scale, but it's like the best because
yeah.
you will have less chemical composition in the food that people are going to eat.
Yeah, yes,
Thank you. All right.
yes,
Thank you so much, Mr. Peter, for
yes,
being our facilitator today on behalf of Fronte. Farms Limited. This session has been so insightful and so inspiring as well. Thank you,
Yes,
thank you,
ma'am.
thank you, thank you so much. And by the
Yes,
way,
ma'am.
guys, backstage before Peter came on, we had like a brief conversation. And Peter, he shared his story because I asked him, "Oh, how did he get into agriculture?" And he said, you know, he studied soil science at Mobafemi Awolowo University. Somehow he didn't want to practice, but I think what changed everything for him was being assigned to or being deployed to Fonte Farms, and he then had like a first on hands-on experience, and then he then sort of allow himself explore this path. And that's been really good. Peter, do you have anything to say on that regards before we go offline today?
Okay. You
Okay,
already said
let's
it all.
put it this way. Just sort of what you would say to our viewers, particularly young Nigerians that are studying agriculture in university, but are not sure whether or not to pursue it because they just think that it is not economically viable. What would you be your advice or admonition to them from your own experience thus far this past 2 years?
Okay. As my MD will say, agriculture is the gold mine these days.
Mm,
So I will encourage youth like me to actually engage themselves in agriculture because me too, I actually have another another niche like website designer that I'm actually, but I actually thought of this thing. I can't continue to be doing websites at the there's an age that I can actually do all this kind of thing. So
yeah.
once I'm going to like 40 years old, I can't be designing website again. So this thing is
Mm,
actually, to me, is actually a stable source of income that
yeah.
someone can actually be earning from it because that someone can actually be earning from it because all these other skill, all these tech thing, they can actually uh, they can actually they can actually give me the steady source of income because I actually thought this
Mm,
agriculture is actually is actually a way that can actually that can actually give me the steady source of income.
mm, mm. So for you, agriculture brings a much more certainty and stability in terms of finances, right? Because food
Yes,
is something that people cannot go without. We can
yes,
go
yes,
without buying clothes for 6 months. We can go without, paying house rent for 6 months. Or you can't go without eating food for 6 months. You have to eat every day. So there's actually a
yes,
demand for it. And by
yes,
virtue of
yes,
that demand, there is the ability for it to generate consistently
yes,
recurring
con-
revenue for you.
yes,
Wow, wow. So, guys, we've heard it all from Peter, sharing from his experience, letting us know that agriculture is a viable means of economic empowerment, which is something I usually preach about. And so, dear young person watching or listening to this, contemplating whether or not to focus on your BA Agric or BSc Agric and do something with it, this is a clarion call for you to definitely want to practice agriculture. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today on this training this week 3 on how to grow tomato, bell pepper, and okra in your backyard. Next week, we would have another episode again from another seasoned farmer as well, training us on how to grow herbs and spice. But so, guys, thank you so much and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.